Hi everyone. My name's Amanda. I actually have written everything down because I suffer really badly from social anxiety. So yeah, I guess I'm gonna start with that, and as people kind of join, hello, hey. So I'll be discussing how people who walk a Druidic path can pave a pilgrimage of recovery and well-being. So I'm originally from Sydney. I currently live in South Australia, in the hills area, on about 150 acres. And I've lived in a few different places. I lived remote for a while in a community called Ovates in the remote Northern Territory, and a few other places in East Arnhem Land for a little bit, and New Zealand. But I currently reside in South Australia. I'm a counsellor. I work in South Australia's mental health system, and I've worked with people who are acute, starting in hospital, and support transition back into the community, kind of support people with a sense of autonomy after they're discharged from hospital. So I work in the really acute side of mental health, which can be quite challenging at times, but I find it incredibly rewarding. So today, this evening, sorry, I thought I would talk about how as Druids we can support mental health. This doesn't necessarily mean that you need to have a diagnosis, just mental health can be positive and support the kind of recovery process or just everyday well-being. And what that looks like, I guess, with Druidry. Hi, hello Amy, and hi Sian. This is also the first time I've ever done a live chat ever, so this is great. And I've also got a cat running around mentally, and a dog asleep in the corner here. So if you hear just bells and noises every now and then, that's kind of what's happening. And I always need a tea. That's how I manage my social anxiety. I need to be holding something, and I've done that through cognitive behavior therapy, which is one of the things that I implement. So yeah, I guess we'll start. So at my work, we use a few different methods for mental health and optimal health. But tonight I thought I would go through how we can support everyday well-being by aligning ourselves with our goals. And by doing that, kind of looking at values and interests and kind of how that looks like with your personal life, the people that you hang around with, and then also your work-life balance, and how that kind of aligns to kind of make you feel that like you feel motivated to get up every day, you know, as an individual and as a part of community, and especially as a Druid, aligning ourselves with what our values are, for example, like conservation and things like that, and making sure that your whole day aligns with that. So we use this really cool program. It was designed, I don't know if you can see that. It's called Optimal Health Program. It was designed by Melbourne University and St Vincent Hospital in Melbourne. Amazing stuff. It goes through everything from identifying your strengths and weaknesses, right through to envisioning a goal setting and through to safety plans. So I thought I would take a few different little sections from it, and kind of, I'll write these in the comments as well, as kind of a bit of a debrief, and some kind of exercises that people might want to go through to kind of optimize your daily health. So, and also what that looks like doing a Druidic path. So, first of all, your interests. I think making sure that you know what your interests are, and they do change, obviously, so do your values as well. I mean, the core values stay there, but values can change throughout your life. But really knowing what your interests are and what your values are, really kind of identify what your goals might be, either through work or personal life. For example, I really care about conservation as someone who studies at a pagan path. I also care about community engagement and working with people every day, and that keeps me stimulated and it gets me out of bed in the morning. And so my work cares about is carbon neutral. First of all, my workplace, I work for a company called Nimi National. And so that aligns with one of my values. And I work with people every day, different people, quite acute across the spectrum, either my colleagues and then people out in the field. And so they're two values that I have, and then my workplace aligns with it, which helps me get up in the morning and do the work that I do. So that's kind of an example of how you can really start to make sure that your work values align with your personal values, or your workplace values align with your personal values, and it supports you to do that every day. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to be an occupation. I mean, an occupation can look like gardening or attending to a house, or depending on what that activity looks like for you, if it's aligning with your values and what keeps you busy, it will support you to be motivated. So looking at your interests, values will kind of determine your goals, long-term, short-term goals with either your career or how you do your day-to-day life. And it ultimately supports your day-to-day well-being and positivity and feeling happy. Obviously, there are dynamics within that, and I don't want to get into it in this talk, but if you have a particular diagnosis, then we look at management programs for you to make sure that you're looking after yourself the best that you can and using those strategies to support your day-to-day life, which sometimes get a little bit different to someone who doesn't have a diagnosis, but it's still just as important that we all look after our mental health for ourselves and for the community. And later in this talk, I'll talk about how safe disclosure can be really important when we work with people in the community or just interact with people in general. I think it would really support, empathy would go a long way. So I'll talk about that a little bit later. So another thing that this program does, which I will show again, is looking at your strengths and vulnerabilities in a little bit of a diagram like this. So we've got, at the top, we've got stresses, we've got vulnerabilities, we've got strategies, and we've got strengths. So ultimately this booklet, which I work people through as part of the programs that I do as a counsellor, and it's part of what we call motivational interviewing, or ACT, which is acceptance and commitment therapy, is identifying strengths, vulnerabilities, and stresses in your life. And when you identify those three things, you'll start to build strategies of how to live around that. So, for example, a good example for me is that speaking to people is very stressful. And I need to do something with my hands, and I need to do something that's personal with my hands, hence a T. It's a strategy. It helps with the stress to make this a positive experience for everyone and myself. So that is a very practical example, but it supports my mental health. Also, I have an eating disorder, so I plan my meals throughout the day. That is a strategy that I use to support my mental health against my vulnerabilities of that. So they're kind of some examples. And when it comes to my Druidic path, I really care about empathy and sitting with myself and meditating and being aligned with what I care about and being vulnerable with myself and my own path so that I can be present with others. And that's how I try and walk my path. And in regards to my studies and my Druidic studies and my expression in how I dance and sing and write music. And that's how I express myself, and I care about supporting people to express themselves and getting the most that they can out of life. And that's why I do my job. And at the core of it, it's kind of my Druidic path as well, is that real Ovate, I guess. And I'm kind of sitting in that at the moment. For me, in the OBOD course, for people that do study that, I know that not other people study different Druidic orders here. So yeah, it's a little bit about that. Another thing I want to talk about is building health plans. So I've spoken a little bit about things that we do kind of every day, I guess, to maintain our health. But sometimes there's things that we need to do when we experience kind of episodes of illness or sadness or, kind of depressive periods. I guess it's not necessarily, even if they don't hang around for very long, or, a traumatic event happens, it's part of life. Things happen that are out of our control. But what is in our control is how we react to those situations. For example, if you're experiencing either a breakup or an argument, or you've had a death, either an animal or a human in your life, which I'm sure we all have, and they're periods of sadness and grief, and being able to sit with that and go through it, go through the motions of that, but then also have strategies in place to support that. So either if it's a distraction for you, like going to work is good for you, or sometimes sitting with it is good for someone. But every day making sure that you have a motivation every day to get up and do things. And that really looks like knowing what your goals are and what your strategies are, and long-term, and kind of aligning that with your interests and values, like I said before, but also having something to look forward to also supports getting up every day. Because ultimately that's what you want to be able to do as a community, to be able to get out of bed, get up, do what you want to do, and feel good about it. And support others to be able to do what they want and not kind of hinder that experience. So that's a little bit about that. So as kind of, looking at the kind of carer or kind of supporting others, I've touched on it, like I said, like a little bit throughout this, but I think a really good practice as a community, especially either in these forums or when we meet up, or when we're talking about different spiritual paths, or really anything in general, it's really good to practice safe disclosure, because you don't know what could trigger someone on a daily basis. You just don't know what someone's going through, or so being really well informed, I think is quite good as a community, and especially as a Druidic community, making sure that when we post things or we share things, that we're just aware that sometimes some things can affect people that might not affect yourself. And I know we all kind of know these tendencies, but I think a sense of empathy can go a long way. And to be empathetic, one of my favorite psychologists, she also has done a bit of psychiatry, is Dr. Brené Brown, and she's incredible. I will also post in the comments some references to her. She does this incredible TED talk about the difference between sympathy and empathy. And essentially, like, to have empathy, to really truly hold empathy, you need to be able to be vulnerable within yourself. It's not necessarily walking someone else's shoes. I think that gets a little bit muddled or confused in a lot of discussion around empathy. It's about being able to be so vulnerable in yourself that you're able to be present with someone else with what they're going through, not take it on board, and walk away from the situation. And one of the differences here between empathy and sympathy is asking someone if they're okay. It's never really okay to ask someone if they're okay. I know there's a lot of, I know that there's a big day about it, and I guess that's also really good to hold that, to be aware of that, and what they're doing is really good stuff. But in regards to, just if someone's feeling a little bit down and things like that, being kind of aware of that, and that's empathy, is just being present with that person with what they necessarily want at that time. And it could be just to be listened to, or even just some silence. And And that's really supporting as a community, which I really care about, which is part of, you know, one of my values, and why I really love Druidry so much, is that that essence of community and that essence of healing and respect, and caring for nature and everything around us, is that we just listen and we take part in society in a very healing way. Firstly, by looking after ourselves and knowing how we can be vulnerable to ourselves and expression, and within that, to then support other people through, yeah. I just realized this was the first time I went and had a drink from that, and it's still good and hot, so that's good. I've been talking a lot. Yeah. That's, yeah. I wonder if anyone has any questions or anything about that. I probably should look at this thing, scroll through here. Some people are joining, but if you have any questions or anything, I got some thumbs up. This is cool. Like I said, I completely forgot about this thing in the corner here, because talking to you has been so much fun. So yeah, I'd really encourage you to look up Dr. Brené Brown. She's amazing. And that it's that building that connection with someone, that respectful, positive. Oh, I love the connection you're making between listening to nature and listening to others and each other. Yes. Yeah, one of the big aspects of my job is listening. 80% of my job is listening. And I really care about that aspect, and then how I link that to my love of nature, and how I listen to that and listen to other people and each other. And, because we are a part of nature. I think sometimes society, we separate that a lot, but we are actually a part of the system and the network, and all needs to be respected and listened to. And my cat and my dog are playing in the background here, which you can't actually see, but you can hear it, and it's hilarious. They decided to go on a rampage while I'm on this, and I'm sitting on the floor too, which also supports my well-being. Yeah. There's a little bit more of kind of this building health strategies that I'll probably go back into, just to give you a little bit more of an idea of some of the work that I do. So building health plans anyone can do it. It's really important for supporting your optimal health on a day-to-day basis. And there are kind of 3 elements it can be organized in. Things that I do every day to maintain my optimal health, things that I do when I experience early warning signs, and things that I do when I'm not feeling so great. And I'll also place that in the comments as well. I'll place a few things, like a few different little resources that we can look into, especially around safe disclosure and optimal health and things like that. And yeah, they really support that. And the analogy that this book uses, which is actually a really good one, and I think most people in here might be able to resonate with it if you drive. If you don't, I'm sure you'll probably get it anyway. The things that you do every day to maintain your car, right? Like you put fuel in it, you might clean it, you might check the tires, you'll put your seatbelt on, things like that, to kind of the things that you do every day around a car maintenance. And then the early warning signs. So if you need to fill up the engine fluid, it's not something you do every day, but you might get a little, like a warning sign of that, or you've got to pump up your tires, you can feel they're getting a little bit flat. It's not, like I said, it's not something you do every day, but it is something that, maintains that to kind of, support that, so it doesn't, your car doesn't start to have problems. And then there is the plan that you need when your car breaks down. Now, we really struggle to build that plan as a society, and I'm going to say this because it's statistically proven. When either you know, those periods where life's just kind of spun out of control and you, yeah, feel like you're pretty low, and that, you know, to kind of, and there, you know, there are strategies that you can do to support you through that, and also support to make sure that you have the people around you that you want around you, what we call collaborative partners, that they're supportive and that you know that those people will support you through that, with whatever that episode looks like. And to kind of help, you know, you get back on your feet, which we end up doing anyway. And yeah, so I also want to mention, if anything that I brought up tonight has brought up anything for you, if you're experiencing any kind of mental health concerns, you can call Lifeline on 13111114. There are also other incredible numbers and resources to call, depending on what state you're in. So we have, if you live in South Australia, I highly recommend these guys. These are amazing. This is the Lived Experience Telephone Support Service. We actually sponsor these guys, my organisation, and I'll put this link down. It's getting really good reviews, and yeah, so they're really, really good. They also have a web chat, so do Lifeline. Lifeline also have a web chat if you don't feel like calling someone, which I know can be quite difficult if anything's going up for you. There's also Respect, obviously, and a few other things like drug and alcohol. Drug and alcohol as well. So that's South Australia's one. Is where I am now, and it's the mental health system I work at. But every state has a number for these guys, and also Quit and things like that, and whatever, you know, you're kind of going through at the time. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I'm just gonna leave it at that, unless anyone else has any other questions, and I might just kind of hang around for that and hold up a kitty, because, you know, cats are cute, and you know, who doesn't want to meet a kitty cat, especially a kitten, right? Who's that? It's a kitten. Why is that kitten? Why is this? Oh yes. So that's a kitten. But yeah, I'll hang around for a couple of minutes to see if, you know, if anyone else has any questions and they're typing anything. Yeah, otherwise, obviously, you can comment and I'll answer any questions in the video comments at a later date. I'm just getting a lot of love, which, you know, in emojis, and that's cool. I like that too. It's really, really awesome. And I have just fired like a lot of information, and I'm aware of that. But it's a really, I'm really passionate about it, and I'm really passionate about the space in which I work. I really, really love my job, and it really aligns with my Ovate studies and my core values, which allows me to get up every day and do what I do with a lot of passion, even with its challenges. Yeah. So I think I'm going to leave it at that. And yeah, I think that's it. Yeah. I can't see any other things here. So, well, yeah, thank you for listening. Like I said, if anything in this talk has brought up anything for you, Lifeline on 131114. That's, yeah, like, they're really, really good. Or looking up other things that are accessible in your state or any web chats. So thank you. Bye.